You know, until pretty recently, I had planned to talk about how Jay Lethal was going to have to be the hero, the MVP of this street fight at Against All Odds in order to salvage any credibility that he could still have, but I'm not going to do that now, because there's just no point anymore. He has no credibility left. He's not going to have any credibility. You know, he's probably going to win the belt back this Sunday, and then he just needs to lose it as soon as possible after that, because he does a total disservice to that title right now. I mean, I think Jay Lethal is an awesome talent. Don't get me wrong. But like I've said several times before, from the way he's been booked within the context of this storyline, he has been made to look like the worst X Division champion of all time. And that's not his fault. That's 100% the fault of the creative team. They just completely dropped the ball on Jay Lethal in almost every way possible, and that's all that I've got to say about that. Okay. Welcome to Against All Odds, the re-recording. Going to talk about the pay-per-view that aired Sunday, February 10th. And for the most part, much like the impacts that led up to this show, I thought this pay-per-view was largely hit and miss. There was a lot of good stuff about the show, and there was some stuff that was not so good. I'll start with the stuff I liked. First, the 3D Machismo Guns match. The booking here was really surprising to me, because Saban and Shelley got taken out like halfway through the match, leaving Jay Lethal pretty much on his own against three guys. And then he actually pulled out the upset and he won anyway. And clearly this match was booked to put Jay Lethal over like a huge star. And you guys know my position on Jay Lethal, so that was really, really great to see. You know, it was still too little, too late, as far as I'm concerned. But it was still really great to see, and the crowd went bananas for it. Lethal actually looked like, a champion, an honest-to-God champion for a change. And this is how the writers should have been booking him from the beginning of this feud. And if they had, I wouldn't have felt the need to make like 10 YouTube videos about how Jay Lethal's been the worst X Division champion of all time. I don't know what caused the writers to finally get a clue about this, but whatever it was, you guys keep it up. I do wish that Saban and Shelley had gotten up and helped Lethal win at the end of the match, but otherwise this was just about perfect. Oh, and another thing, the 3D promo before the match was very, very suspicious. I thought they said Jay Lethal had heart, but they didn't. But they said that Saban and Shelley didn't, and then Saban and Shelley got taken out early. So I wonder if this feud might resume at some point. After 3D dropped down to 275, maybe have them feud over the tag team titles. I would not mind seeing that at all. Next was Barbed Wire Massacre, and sweet Jesus, I mean, what a brutal spectacle. I mean, some really, really sick spots here. I mean, Abyss took barbed wire shots to the head, the face, all over the arms. He got crushed on a chair, wrapped in it at one point. I mean, good God. Mike Tenay even put Abyss in that same category as those hardcore icons like Funk and Brody and Cactus Jack, and I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think he's, within spitting distance of them at this point at least. Judas Macias was not as impressive in this match, but we shouldn't overlook his work either. I give the guy credit. He's not Sabu, but he did his thing. Both these guys should be commended. They got balls of steel for going into a match like this, as far as I'm concerned, and, what else is there to say? Next, we had the women's title match, ODB versus Awesome Kong. This was not quite on the level of the matches that Kong had with Gail Kim, but it was still a solid match. I mean, it told a nice story how ODB kept trying to get Kong up for a slam and didn't quite have the strength to do it. And then Raisha Saeed interfered, helped Kong win. So the loss doesn't really hurt ODB at all. I think the next step in this angle would now be to put Gail Kim back in the mix, turn it into a three-way feud for the title. Like I said in the previous video, I think the three of them could have some really interesting matchups together. Then it was Petey Williams versus Scott Steiner, and this match was probably better than it had any right to be. I wasn't expecting too much from this one, and it turned out better than I thought it would. I liked how they had Petey Williams mocking Scott Steiner with the sit-ups and the posing and stuff, and he even put Scott in a recliner at one point, which I thought was cool. I was really hoping they'd put Petey over here, and they didn't, but he did get in a lot of offense. When he rallied after Steiner had him on the fence for a while, he showed that he could give Steiner a hard time. And Scott basically had to resort to a bunch of cheating and dirty tactics, bringing in that new freak of his to win the match. So at least Petey looked relatively strong in defeat. And this feud absolutely needs to continue for a while. Number one, so Petey can get a win over Steiner, which he needs. And number two, so at the very least, Petey must get that X Division title shot away from Steiner. No offense to Big Papa Pump, but if you can't wrestle X Division style, you should not be competing in the X Division, and the writers should know that. Also, one thing I want to mention about this match, TNA really needed to clarify what rules these guys were fighting under. Was the match no DQ or not? Because the referee tried to stop Steiner from using the briefcases as a weapon, but then Petey Williams used them as a weapon, and he didn't get DQ'd or anything. That part didn't make a lot of sense. It kind of took away from the match a little bit, but overall this was a good bout. Then we had James Storm versus Eric Young. Rhino interfered. He returned at the end of the match, attacked Storm, helped EY win. This was a really, really good match. A lot of cool spots here. Eric Young did the moonsault. And Storm even broke out the swanton, which I thought was cool. Rhino's return was awesome because it fixed the main problem that I was having with this program. My complaint has been, that feud was leaning towards more towards the comic relief side of things. And while it does play to Eric Young's strengths as a character, it really doesn't take advantage of what James Storm has to offer in terms of really being a really serious badass heel. But if you add Rhino to the mix, you can, milk the history that he has with Storm from that really bitter, intense feud that they had last year, and problem solved. And as for the tag team title match, nothing to really say about this. The champions retained, thank God, and hopefully this is the last time we'll have to see VKM on a pay-per-view. So cross your fingers for that one. As for what I did not like, the other women's match was not as good as it could have been. There was good effort. They both put in a lot of effort, but it was mostly just a lot of brawling. I think they're both capable of better than this. And I really think that Ms. Banks should have gone over here. She's the debuting new talent. She needed to win more, and the loss really wouldn't have hurt Tracy at all. Also, the Booker T. Robert Roode match was very good while it lasted, but I did not like the count-out finish. It was very unsatisfying. I just felt like they were selectively enforcing a stipulation that hardly ever gets enforced in TNA these days. And after the heat between these two guys was built up so well, to have a finish like that just felt like a big cop-out. Why on earth did they have Booker go for the spinneroonie? Oh my God, if I'm Booker T, and I'm finally face-to-face with the guy who shattered my wife's jaw, I'm not going to give a rat's ass about showboating and pandering to the crowd. All I'm going to be thinking about is beating the life out of Robert Roode until I can't lift my arms anymore. Did not like that. And finally, there was the main event, and this was really frustrating to me. This match was easily a match of the year candidate until the last 5 minutes. After the build-up to this match for the last month was practically non-existent, I think everyone pretty much knew that Christian Cage had no chance of winning. So, do we really need run-ins from Karen Angle and AJ Styles and Tomko? It was the typical overbooked, convoluted ending that tarnishes so many great main events in TNA these days. If they just kept it simple, it would have been so much better. So, overall, I think Against All Odds was a pretty good show. It was not great, but it was pretty good. But it could have been a great show if the writers would just tone down all the damn ref bumps, the outside interference, the screwy finishes, and the overbooking. As I said before, it just feels like they're trying too hard to be creative and shocking, and it's not coming across well. Would it really kill them to have a main event, a pay-per-view main event that had a clean finish to it? I'm starting to think it would.